Can you smell that delicious cake? Have you ever wondered why your fingers prune in water, or how plants take in nutrients from the soil? All of these require the movement of substances by either diffusion, osmosis, or active transport. In this video, we will discuss how cells take in useful substances like food and water and remove waste using these three methods of transport. The exchange of materials occurs between the inside of the cell and the outside of the cell across the cell membrane. Some parts of our body have been developed to exchange materials, such as alveoli in the lungs, root hairs in plants, and nephrons in our kidneys. Depending on what is being exchanged and in what direction it is moving, will determine whether diffusion, osmosis, or active transport is used. Let's start with diffusion. The lovely smells of the cake spread around the room by diffusion. Diffusion is the process in which particles spread out from each other. They move from high concentrations, meaning right by the cake, to low concentrations, meaning the rest of the room. In diffusion, we call this moving down the concentration gradient. They will move until they're evenly spread out. To move, the particles need to either be a gas or to be dissolved. Diffusion is seen throughout nature and allows substances to move in and out of the cells across the cell membrane. But they must be dissolved, and there must be a difference in concentrations so that the particles can move from high to low concentration. Gas exchange in the lungs is a perfect example of diffusion. Oxygen moves into the blood from the alveoli, and carbon dioxide moves out of the blood into the alveoli. Carbon dioxide moves from the air into leaves of plants. But it doesn't have to be a gas. Nutrients in our digestive food moves from the small intestine into the blood by diffusion. You can also have facilitated diffusion, where the movement is still from a high to a low concentration, but you need a little special helper or a carrier protein to make this movement occur. Sugar is an example that needs a carrier protein. Osmosis. Osmosis is similar to diffusion, but it involves just water. Osmosis is the movement of water in or out of the cell. In other words, it's the movement from an area of a lot of water molecules to an area of less water molecules. The water molecules can move across a membrane. They also move at random, so some will move back and forth across the membrane, but the overall result is the movement of water molecules to the side with less water, until eventually both sides will have equal amounts of water. This is called equilibrium. Osmosis out of a cell can cause big changes. Animal cells will shrivel up, and in plant cells, the membrane and cytoplasm will shrink away from the cell wall, causing the cell to become floppy. The opposite happens if water moves into a cell. The plant cells will swell, but they won't burst because of the cell wall. However, animal cells can burst because they don't have a cell wall. The absorption of water by plants' roots or the absorption of water in the intestines both use osmosis.